Well, welcome to the Wealth Tank Podcast, passive investing for veterans. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and motivate you to reach your goals of wealth and freedom. I'm Tom Groves, and with me today is my co-host, Noah Walton.
Thank you, Tom. Today's guest is Rod Khleif. Rod is a powerhouse in the world of commercial multifamily investing. He has quite a history, which we will dive into, but he is the host of the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate podcast. He's an educator and a mentor to hundreds in this business, and he is a true giver. We can say he's made a major impact in our lives, and we are honored to have him as a guest today. Thank you for joining us, Rod.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. This will be a lot of fun today. I'm looking forward to it. And before we even get started, I have to say to everyone listening, thank you for your service. I'm such a huge proponent for our military and first responders, and we live in the greatest country on earth because of you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Rod. We appreciate that.
Thanks.
So to start us off, tell us your story. How did you get started?
Sure.
I know you were an immigrant. Your story.
I'm an immigrant. Yep.
And what has been your path to achieve the success that you have today?
Sure. Well, I'm going to go way back to when I immigrated. So I was born in the Netherlands, wooden shoes and windmills. And we immigrated when I was 6 with my brother Albert, my mother's Vansha. We actually came across on a big boat. I remember my mom crying. We ended up in New York Harbor. I remember my mom crying when she saw the Statue of Liberty, true story. And that and flying on a plane for the first time were my only memories of that moment in time. But we ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we didn't have much when we got there. In fact, I remember we ate expired food. We shopped at an expired food store, which, believe it or not, they had back then. And we drank powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which, trust me, sounds better than it is, but it was cheaper than real milk. And I remember wearing clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army, literally all the way through junior high school, till finally I got disgusted when I was 14. And luckily I was tall for my age, so I lied about my age at Burger King, and I got a job flipping burgers when I was 14, so I could buy my own clothes and then ultimately buy a car when I was 15, even before I had a license. But, I'm sure you've got people, veterans that have maybe had it harder than I did. Luckily back then I knew I wanted more, and luckily my mom had an incredible work ethic. So, she was even a bit of an entrepreneur, no formal education, but she invested in the stock market with her babysitting money, successfully in IPOs. And then she also invested in real estate with her babysitting money. In fact, the first real estate acquisition she made was the house right across the street from us. She bought it from a family named the Jewels when I was about 14 for about 30 grand. Then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that had gone up in value to 50 grand. I'm like, what? You made 20 grand and you didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate, Mom. So I went out and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. I could actually have my own office. I was a broker. You could do that with education back then. But they got smart now. You have to have some experience before you can have your own office. But I was a broker. I was smart enough to go work for another broker, but I was still living at home. My first year in real estate, I made about 8 grand. My second year, I made about 10 grand. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was dating his daughter. His name was Gino and her name was Kim. And I was dating her, and he was a broker and I worked for him. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical stuff we talk about on our podcasts, and fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long-term in 3 states. And then I own now thousands of apartment units. And in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And if you want to do the math on that, it's about over $8,000 an hour over the year. And of course I did. And I got a head so freaking big, I couldn't fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, sometimes God of the universe will give you a nice little smack. Well, that was 2008. I lost $50 million in 2008. I lost everything. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast, which I'm blessed to say now is the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world, we've just broke 16 million downloads. Really proud of that. And what I'm proud of, and what I'm known for talking about there and at my boot camps is really the mindset it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, but maybe as importantly, maybe even more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from losing it to get back to the success that I'm blessed to have today. So, happy to take this conversation whatever direction you guys want.
No, that's phenomenal. And yeah, absolutely. The mindset is huge. And, seeing that, how you came back from losing so much during the '08 crash and not just throwing in the towel, to
Hey,
how do I
people
double
killed
down?
themselves. Yeah, people killed themselves back then in '08 and '09, and of course in the Great Depression. Jumped off buildings, were losing about the same amount proportionately. I can't tell you it didn't suck as it did, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge, and to be able to not just make it through that, but come back even stronger. And that's definitely. And, I guess kind of a question on that would be, what, as somebody who's just getting into, say, commercial real estate or just getting into the entrepreneurial side of things, what would you recommend they do to
Sure.
foster and
Great
build
question.
that mindset?
Great question. Well, here's what I did to reassociate, to get back in the saddle. I reassociated with my goals. Okay. In fact, if you come to one of my boot camps, and you know this, Noel, because you've been to them, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids, because, how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what it is you want, right? You got to know what you want, and you've got to know why you want it, and you've got to have clarity, because what you've got to do is you've got to create what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich says, a burning desire. You've got to really want it, because that's how you push through fear to take action. That's how you push through limiting beliefs. I'll talk about that in a minute. But and also, a lot of people are comfortable. If you're a vet and you've got a nice retirement, you might be comfortable. But here's the problem: the comfort zone's a nice warm place, and nothing freaking grows there, right? So you wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't be listening to this great show if you were totally satisfied with where you're at. So, and that burning desire is the first piece. So. And I'll give you guys a great deal if you want to come. I've got a boot camp coming up. But even if you don't, I do goal setting every year on New Year's Day. And it's in my link tree. If you go to rodslinks.com, rods plural, links plural.com, and you go to the bottom, there's my goal setting workshop. It's with music. It's about an hour and 15 minutes. Here's the thing, guys, people spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life. So, if you've got, have your spouse do it. Have you got kids that are over 10 years old, have them do it. Nothing could be more powerful for a kid than to get lined up with what they want in life. And so, go there, go to Rod's Links. There's a guide you can download. It's music. It's professionally done right here in my studio. Really proud of it. And I don't try to sell you anything. It's just, do it, because and honestly, you should be doing your goals at least 3 times a year. So it starts with goals, Noel. That's the first thing. And then once you've got clear on what you want, you've got to make a decision. And sometimes, that could be the most important decision of your life. And when I say decision, I don't mean dip your freaking toe in the water or put one foot in and one foot out. I mean, it is done.
Go for it.
Yeah, it is freaking done. There's no turning back. And an analogy, great analogy that Tony Robbins uses for a decision is, if you're going to attack the island in battle, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home. That's a freaking decision, right? So that's the next piece. And then then you got to take the first step. And sometimes that can be the scariest step of your life. And we see it in my students. It's the law of the first deal. It takes the longest. It's the scariest. It's the most stressful. I see my warriors, my students, they might go 6 months, 8 months. They don't have a deal. Then they get one. And then I turn around and they have 4. I'm like, what the hell happened? Well, they got past that law of the first deal. But just remember, you got to take that first step. Like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. But you got to take that first step.
That's
absolutely
awesome. So, Rod, you're talking about faith and talking about fears and all this stuff. I got a question for you. What have you seen, or what do you see that are some of the biggest fears that people get tripped up? Some of the biggest hindrances why people are so afraid to move forward, to take that first step.
Awesome question. Awesome question. In fact, first time I've ever been asked that question, and I'm really glad you asked it. And that's what holds people back, is fear or limiting beliefs. And what is fear? False evidence appearing real, F everything and run, or I like to think it's face everything and rise. Okay. And so, the biggest fears are, well, big one is fear of rejection. That was huge for me. In fact, let me share something with you. When I immigrated this country, in fact, I've got the props here I can show you. When I immigrated this country, I got thrown into school. I was 6 years old, didn't speak English, found out what bullies were for the first time. So I got my butt kicked occasionally. And then my mom, hang on, let me grab them. Proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in these wooden shoes. These are the real shoes. We found them when we put her in assisted living. And these gay leather shorts that the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. Sorry for German, but you know what they look like. But anyway, lederhosen, exactly. And so I got my ass kicked again. And then, I had bullies that lived at the end of my street, and they chased me home, and my mama chased them off with a fly swatter. Next day, butt kicking. And so I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. And a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That's another one of mine. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS. But you've got to approach them. You've got to look at them with your adult rational mind and recognize that they're BS. Because I used to be so fearful of rejection. But I came to the realization anybody that rejected me either didn't know me or they had their own crap going on, right? And I had to own that. But so if you've got one of those limiting beliefs, I'd encourage you to really look at it and consciously. And if you do it enough, it'll go away. And mine did. I used to be afraid to raise my hand in class. And now, as you guys know, I speak in front of thousands of people a year. But so limiting beliefs is one thing. And then the fear. Like I said, the fears are fear of rejection, fear of failure is a big one. So let's talk about failure for a minute. Mm-hmm. I call failure seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar, but it's only a failure if you don't get back up or you don't get the lesson, right? And so, we fail our way to success. I mean, look, I'm a poster child for failure. I've discovered this a few years ago. I was blown away by how many there were, but I've built 27 businesses so far in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars. Okay. Cause again, we fail our way to success. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, the women's undergarments that hold it all together. Beautiful human being. In fact, I just saw her at Grant Cardone's Growth Con, her and her husband, Jesse Isler, but I met her at a mastermind years ago. And she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what a freaking awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure, right? So again, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of humiliation, limiting beliefs, and comfort. These are all the things that hold people back. Great question, Tom. But again, you got to get uncomfortable. That amazing life of your dreams is just on the other side of comfort. So,
that's awesome. That's amazing, Rod. And that leads me to, obviously there's the internal side of fear, but what about the external side? So I know often I hear people saying, "Oh, the market and what's going on in the economy and the world right now." Could you? Dive a little bit into that.
I mean, we're headed for some pain, man. We're headed for some pain. I really believe
education, it. Education is one of the best ways to help curb fear. The more you know about a situation, the better you can make decisions around that and pivot as you need to. So what have you seen? What is your take?
It's funny. I'm in a lot of cash right now. And I just had a conversation with my brother about this. He's in a lot of cash. I mean, we're like rubbing our hands together greedily, getting ready for this thing, right? Okay. I mean, listen, we're going to have some pain. Some people say it could be the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes. But here's the thing. You got to get up to speed. You got to get up to speed as fast as possible so you can capitalize on it. So I pulled some articles today because I was just going to do a little Facebook clip on this. So let me tell you just today what I got in my email. So Jim Bottolato, the director of multifamily capital markets in Newmark's Philly office, said there is $430 billion in debt maturities coming due in multifamily in 23 and 24. Wow. Just in multifamily, in all commercial asset classes, there's 2.8 trillion coming due. Guys, here's the thing. Wow. A lot of that debt is adjustable rate debt, but even if it isn't, the rates have gone up a lot. And if an operator that bought a property didn't accurately, conservatively stress test the deal to anticipate a pretty big rate jump, they're either going to have to, bring in some rescue capital or sell at a discount. And what does that mean? That means opportunity, guys. Okay. So, and this could be smaller properties in the million range all the way up to 50, 60, $100 million deals. I mean, and then the other article today was in CoStar, investors basically bought $14 billion worth of multifamily in the first quarter of this year, but that is a 74% year over year decline right now, 74% decline. I mean, so guys, wow. Now it's the people that kind of want to sell, but pretty soon it's going to be the people that need to sell. You get up, if you 100%. Get up to speed. So here's the thing I want to say, I mean, you're obviously listening to this because you like multifamily, but you got to pick your vehicle right now. And there's going to be opportunity in everything. Opportunity to buy businesses. A lot of baby boomers that own businesses. Opportunity there. Opportunity to buy single family, of course. Other asset classes, self-storage, industrial, retail. I wouldn't do office. Forget office right now. It's going in a tailspin. But there's other asset classes. Obviously, if it's multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. I've got a virtual one coming up May 6th and 7th. And can I bring it up real quick, you guys?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So it's a 2-day event. I don't sell anything there. And what's the name of your podcast again? Forgive me.
The Wealth Tank podcast.
Well, okay. Use the code WEALTH and you can come for $47 freaking dollars. Okay. And I don't sell anything there. And Noel, you've been to you can attest that, I don't hold anything back. Yeah. Okay. 100%. So if you go to Rod's plural.com and you go, there's my bootcamp site there. By the way, there's a ton of free resources there. I told you that my goal setting guide is there, but there's the bootcamp site there. Just use the code WEALTH. And Noel, remind me if I forget, because I got to tell my team that I did this, and I don't usually do this, but tell my team I did this. And I'll also include the recordings of the event. Okay, it's 16 to 18 hours of training. We go over every aspect of the business. Multifamily. Now, if you're interested in multifamily, go. But again, use the code WEALTH for $47 price. And I've never had a complaint on that. Yeah, thousands deal. Of people attend. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's huge value.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I think that what's going to hit the fan. I think there's going to be some serious pain in this country. And again, but here's the other thing. Okay. If you're watching this and this podcast or listening to it, you're a leader. And now more than ever, the world needs leaders, okay? And your focus is super critical in what's coming. And that's why the goals are so important, so that you're focused on the goals instead of the crap that's in the news. And I don't care, and don't get me started on the political crap, but it's all crap. You don't even know what to believe anymore. It's so much crap out there. So don't get caught up in that, because whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. And if you're focused on the news, you're just going to be stressed out. And ask me how I know thing, because it's been so beating my head against the wall with the stupidity that's going on in this country right now, that's causing all these problems, and they just keep magnifying it. But we won't go down that political rabbit hole, but it's just insane what's going on. And so but focus is critical. And so pay attention to what you're focused on, your goals, the people you love. In my podcast, I do a clip every week called Own Your Power. It's 5 minutes. You give me 5 minutes a week, I'll juice your ass, okay? Because they're music and they're powerful, and there's hundreds of them there. And so, but bring in the good stuff, stand guard at the door to your mind and leave out the bad stuff, bring in the good stuff, especially in this time that we're about to hit, because fear is going to be rampant. Okay. And so it's critical that you're focused on what you want and why you want it. So you have that narrow focus. And again, you're a leader. People are watching you. They're watching what you're doing. If you get caught up in fear, you will be paralyzed and you won't be leading.
That's
absolutely
true. Rod, I just want to kind of touch base on a couple things. I got a couple questions for you. One, kind of heading out of 2008, 2009, you said where you lost $50 million. For you listening right now, that may be blowing your mind, saying, how could you absolutely recover from losing that amount of money, from losing, that quantity of assets? But, lesson learned, a seminar, whatever we want to call it. So, coming out of that, how did that prepare you to put you in the position where you are now?
Well, listen.
How did you utilize that?
I mean? Do you think I'm conservative now? You better freaking believe it. Okay. I've only bought two assets in the last year and a half, both screaming deals. Okay. But, and my ex-partner, I was involved with him with quite a few other deals that he bought, and they're good deals. But the ones I got were great deals because I'm so freaking conservative. I mean, listen, hit me once, shame on you. Hit me twice, it's my fault, right? So I don't know if I said that right, but you know what I mean. And so I'm super conservative. I stress test deals like crazy. Meaning, what's the break-even point? How much in reserves are we bringing into the deal? How have we estimated what the cap rates will be 5 years from now, what the interest rates will be 5 years from now, how conservative are we there, how much extra cash do we have? And these are all really important things and things that I take very, very seriously. So that's how that crash, affected me. Again, it was no fun. But here's the other thing I'll mention, Tom, that relates to that is, we've all had negative things happen to us, and we choose the meaning we place on what happens to us. Okay. And you can take a horrifically negative thing and put a positive meaning on it. And for me, I would have never met my wife. And if you follow me on social media, you'll see how big a deal that is, because I am married to a supermodel, beautiful woman, and she's more beautiful on the inside than the outside. And I would give it all up again for her. That's how much she means to me. So that's the meaning I placed on it. And again, if you've got something that negative that happened to you, take a look at it and see that you can't put a positive meaning on it. Two people can have the same seemingly horrific thing happen. I know Tony Robbins I mention him a lot because I followed him around the planet for 20 years, but he'll put like people on stage that were POWs for like 7 years. That's just an example that just popped into my head, where this guy was and he came out stronger than when he went in. And of course that destroyed other people. So this is relevant to your audience here, but I forgot his name. I wish I'd know it because it'd be great to share with your audience. He's a real inspiring guy. But I remember him talking about tapping on the walls to communicate with other prisoners and stuff like that. But I mean, this guy was a freaking rock star, and he came out stronger. And of course, there's a positive meaning in that. So anyway,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you have just a couple more questions. And this is one question that we'd love to ask people. And I know you've heard the question before, and people can just kind of be, throw out quirky quotes or whatever else. But thinking if you had a billboard in Times Square, if you had a voice that loud where you have thousands, tens of thousands of people walking by it every day, and they can view that and they can see what you're trying to share with them, what is something that you would share with them if you had that? Which you do. You have that outreach to thousands of people. But
I'm blessed that I've got a big reach. So I've got literally a couple hundred quotes, but I'm going to steal Nike's quote, which is just freaking do it, because I'm going to tell you, when I ask my audience, when I ask my guests, and I've had some of the largest multifamily operators on the planet on my show, I ask them, a common question is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self knowing what you know now? I mean, question we've heard many, many times, but it's always get started sooner, go bigger, faster. So when I say just do it, it's push through that fear. It's push through those limiting beliefs and take that first step. Be willing to grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. So if you can put all that together in a quote on a billboard, that's really the message I'd love to get out there.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's profound. I mean, you start it and you don't have to have
follow through.
Yeah, you don't have to see the whole staircase either.
That's right. That's right.
A step at a time, and you learn as you go.
Lao Tzu said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step, and then you'll see the next step, and then you'll see the next step. Some of the steps will be smaller, some will be bigger, but you got to have that forward momentum. You got to take action. And here's the other thing. Action mitigates fear. It's counterintuitive. You become more fearful if you stay glued in and you don't do anything. When you kick ass and you go take action, it mitigates the fear. Whenever I ever have anything stressful happen to me, a deal blow up or I get sideways with something, what I do to mitigate it is I go take massive action. I make lists, I go take action, make phone calls, and that mitigates the fear. So just remember that. If you're caught in fear, go take some action. Go get around people that are doing this. Come to my freaking boot camp. It's less than a cost of lunch. It's a no-brainer. And if you don't love it, call me. I'll give you your freaking money back. I don't mean like it. I mean love it.
Yep.
Okay. And it's never
Yeah,
happened, but this is the
absolutely.
first time for everything.
No, that's awesome. 100%. And so Rod, in, say the last maybe 5 to 10 years, is there some new belief, behavior, or habit that you've adopted that has brought the most improvement to your life? What is that?
Um, it's been, I'd say, well, I mean, there's a few, but I'll hone in on one, which is focus. Um, the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. So I've worked on my focus. I just bought a cold plunge, by the way. Haven't got in it yet. I took my second cold shower today. I'm doing the Wim Hof thing where I'm going to do the cold shower for about a week, and then I'll get my happy ass in that cold plunge. But I'm excited to get in there because it really helps with focus. But
Yeah.
But I think it would be to develop your focus, and I listen to two podcasts. One is Joe Rogan's, the other one is Tim Ferriss's. So I get both sides of the aisle. And on Tim Ferriss's show, he interviews the best of the best in different walks of life. Best athletes like Michael Phelps and NFL, NBA players, best actors, Jamie Foxx, Ed Norton, Hugh Jackman, Arnold, billionaires like Ray Dalio, the heads of the biggest companies on the planet, CEOs like Zuckerberg, and forgetting the politics. He deconstructs how they achieve their success. And I started to hear a pattern on Tim Ferriss's show, which is really interesting, that ties into focus. A lot of these people meditate. And what does meditation enhance, right? Focus. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's helped me, because I'm all over the place. I wouldn't say I'm what's that term that kids have, that attention
ADHD
deficit disorder.
or-
Yeah. I wouldn't say that I'm that, but I'm probably close. And so the focus really helps a lot in that regard. Yeah.
No,
Back
that's
when I was a
great.
kid, they called it
Absolutely.
OLP, obnoxious
Yeah.
little punk.
That's funny. That's funny. I hate the fact that they medicate these kids, that their freaking school is so boring that they have to do that crap. So don't get me started on that. Let's leave that in politics alone. But I got to tell
That's
you,
right.
don't get me
Yeah.
started on
Focus
there's-
on
yeah,
what
and-
gets you moving forward.
Yeah,
Right.
it is interesting how we see that as a weakness as kids that are hyperactive, but as an adult, it can actually be a superpower if you learn to
you
harness
bet.
it. And
You bet.
it's 100%. So,
Well, awesome.
so yeah,
I want to share one thing if we're getting near the end of
Yes.
this thing. If you'll
Yeah.
Go
humor
for it,
me,
Rod.
is it time for that, or do you have some more questions?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Take your time.
All right,
You-
all right. So
Rod.
we talked about these strategies for success, and I told you about goals. They're huge. Go to Rod's links, do the damn goals, just do it, or come to my boot camp. That's even better. But and then the decision, and then the first step. And the other thing is playing to your strengths, okay? In this business, you want to play to your strengths. There's lots of different hats you can wear. And if you're playing to your strengths, you're happy. You're doing what you love. You never work another day in your life. And the big thing with that is you're passionate. And to influence people, you need passion. So if you're doing what you love, you'll be passionate. So I do want to mention that as another strategy, because it's an important one. But here's something that I want to share, something in my past. Noel, I know you've heard me talk about this, but it's important. And that is, I when I had nothing, I dreamt about living on the beach. Okay. I lived in Denver. There's no beach in Denver. And so I visualized the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And I literally did this for 20 years, visualizing, living on the beach. And 20 years later, I built this incredible $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach. I mean, this place was magnificent, but it was unthinkable when I was 18. So if I guide you through the goals, just realize there's nothing you can't do, be, or have. Okay. You just got to go for it and use the strategies that I teach in that to do it. But just to describe this place, I had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get into the pool. Pool was in magazines, and big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house. It was magnificent. Wine cellar, elevator. And I owned the beach on one side, and I had my boats on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay, where I owned a slice through the island. And I'll end it with this. On the second floor, I had custom aquariums built around the spiral staircase that cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. Well, I worked for this thing for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove to the world that I mattered, that I was good enough, right? Because I had that limiting belief that I wasn't. And the pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting, and my family's inside sleeping. And I had the Maserati and the Mercedes, 2 Mercedes, and the boats and the jet skis and all the stuff, right? And I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I was really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? How could I possibly be depressed when I've just achieved, from societal standards, 10x or 100x on what most people have? And what I realized, and this is what I want to share with your audience, is super important. There were several things going on. The first thing is never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it, right? That, like the good book says, you need a vision for the future. Without a vision, the people perish, is the quote, I think. And so you got to know what you're going to do. And the second thing is, it's never about the goals. You got to have them to create that burning desire. But happiness comes from progress and growth. And so, I didn't know how I was going to grow. And by the way, I talk about that, and I give you an awesome planning session at the end of my goal setting, which both at the boot camp and at the bottom of Rod's links. So that'll really help you as it relates to progress and growth. But the big thing was I was totally focused on me. Show the world I matter, show the world I'm good enough. Rod, blah, blah, blah. And that's the year I met Tony Robbins 23 years ago. And I went and saw him live because I'm like, I got to get my mojo back. I mean, this is bad. I got to get back on my feet. And so I went and saw him live, and I saw that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be freaking 40 to get that memo. And so I called my brother in Denver. I said, hey, bro, let's feed 5 families, because I was coming to see him in Denver for Thanksgiving. And so we had a lot of fun. He called his church, found 5 families who really needed help. And we bought the food and the toys for the kids if they had them and everything. And the third family changed my life. We go up to this shack, 1 bedroom, wasn't even a 1 bedroom. And there was a Hispanic woman there with 5 kids. She comes out, she sees the food and the frozen turkey and the toys, and she starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, in the last 23 years, we fed, I think, upwards of 135,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. Thank you. Wow. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. And by the way, there's a message in this. It's not for my personal ego here. I've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to keep in their vehicles if they encounter a child they need to comfort that's been in a bad situation. The reason I bring this up is we've been taught to achieve to be happy. Like, we shouldn't be happy until we've achieved, right? And that's kind of a United States, or maybe it's even a worldly doctrine. But I'm going to tell you, if you're giving back, you're happily achieving. And I know that's a play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. I'm going to give you the blueprint, the map. You just got to go do it. But fulfillment, that's a science achievement, but fulfillment is an art. You got to find out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the environment or the elderly, whatever it is, give back right now. Now, if you're saying to yourself, yeah, you have a lot of money, you can do it. No, you want more money, do it. Okay. Because that's what happens. Okay. Now, you don't do it for that reason, but give back right now, even if it's just your time. Because I'm going to tell you, the success will come faster. I don't know if you were at my boot camp in Denver, Noel, but we did the Hall of Fame for the 10 top, 10, we picked 10 warriors. We got so many, we didn't know how to pick them, but we picked 10. And we did a slide for each one. We gave them an incredible prize and had them on stage. And I saw a pattern. Every single one of them does something philanthropic, build schools in India, sexual trafficking, veteran suicide, veterans homelessness. Every single one of them did something. I'm like, guys, and I told the 900 people there, that's what we call a freaking clue. Okay. So again, I just wanted to share that before we cut loose.
Absolutely.
Lifelong journeys, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's powerful. And absolutely, when you give, you receive, and it's so true. And
whatever you believe. God, the universe doesn't matter.
Absolutely. We had the opportunity as a team to make a donation as well to Veterans Community Project just this past November as a result of the success we've seen in multifamily. And that was just, it's powerful to see, be able to make just even a minimal impact in such a great organization like that.
I gave to it as well. Same organization.
Awesome stuff.
Our mutual friend.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, hey,
100%.
Rod, thank you so much for your time today. And for you listening, we just want to encourage you. All the links, if you didn't write them down, that's fine. We're going to include those links for Rod's bootcamp and rodslinks.com. We're going to include those in the show notes. So you can just click on those and learn more about Rod, what he's doing. But Rod, again, as we wrap up this episode, how can somebody reach out to you? How can our listeners
Yeah,
reach you and get involved
Rod's
with what
links.
you're doing?
Rod's links is the best thing. It's got all my social media channels there. And if you ask me a question on any one of them, you will get an answer from me. Okay, so I answer every single question. So don't hesitate to ask questions. It's got my podcast link there. Check out my podcast. I'm really proud of it. I think you'll love it. And guys, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure you go to iTunes and leave them a 5-star review, because that really helps them get known. And we want as many veterans as possible. We want to help veterans. That's something I'm very passionate about as well. So, awesome. Make sure you do that for these guys. Yep.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Awesome.
it. And thank you
Rod,
for taking time to listen to the Wealth Tank podcast today. To learn more about investing in multifamily real estate with Jacor, download our free passive investing guide at our website at jcorinvestments.com. And be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
And if you're ready to take the leap and come invest, you can join our free investor club. Absolutely free, no strings attached. We will personally connect with you first to determine if you're qualified to invest and if you're a good partner with us. All these details will be in our show notes. But as Rod mentioned, if you found value from this podcast, we would love and be honored to have you leave us a 5-star rating and review. Share with a friend, and drop Rod a note as well on his social. Just let him know you enjoyed this episode as well.
Absolutely.
So until next time, go Army, beat Navy. Thank you, Rod.
Love it. Nice job,
Awesome.
guys.